Next thing on the agenda for today, we're going to be taking a look, speaking of deck build packs, I suppose, OCG metagame report from 4 days ago. We have an update to Justice Hunter's archetypes because we have the 154 top performing decks from across 25 tournaments in Japan, China, Indonesia, Thailand, South Korea, and Vietnam. And it looks like, at least at first glance, Yummy has done its thing and has overtaken Dracotail. They are very close to each other at the moment still. We have obviously talked about some of the advantages of Dracotail in the past because it's a more mid-rangey strategy that can get a lot of cards out of just very few plays. So it plays very well under cards like Molcharmies and Maxi and so on and so forth. Whereas Yummy is the more combo-heavy deck. But it seems like it has taken a little bit of a lead over on Dracotail, I suppose, is what we should call them now. And we're gonna see why that maybe is. It's worth noting Malice still going very strong in the OCG, and this is obviously a version of Malice that is kind of similar in power to what we have in the TCG or will have after Alliance Insight, which is something we're going to talk about this week and next week a lot as well. Of course, new TCG format with Alliance Insight is going to have Malice, obviously predicted to be very strong. K9 also, I think, is a deck that's very decently represented here. It looked like in the beginning, it was definitely the worst one out of the 3 Justice Hunters archetypes, but it feels like it's much better. It's not a real guess situation, at least, right? Like it's not as popular as Dracotail and Yummy, but it is good, apparently. Like, we're seeing K9 and K9 Crystron as 2 very viable decks here. There's one deck that's completely missing in this breakdown, and that is, of course, Ryziel. Ryziel has apparently completely been eliminated. There's one. Singular. There is as many Ryziel decks in this breakdown from these tournaments as there are Yugioh decks and Shark decks. So, yeah. Not too hot for Ryziel in the OCG right now, but we're gonna take a look at some of the things that they're doing. I think it's most noteworthy for Yummy when I'm looking at this deck list. Of course, not everyone is going to be doing the same with the deck, but I just find it noteworthy that the version of Yummy that they're playing is basically pure, right? They're basically playing pure Yummy with the support of Obedient Schooled and Piri Rise map. Other than that, it's pretty much just Yummy cards and non-engine. This might be due to cards like Maxi being legal in the OCG, so they want to play less explosive engines and more focus on non-engine as well. But the fancy stuff, basically, like Sky Striker engines and stuff like that, to go full Yummy combo, which is all the things that people get so excited about when these archetypes get announced, is not always necessarily the best way to play the decks, especially in the OCG with Maxi legal. I think sometimes sacrificing some ceiling for some non-engine space is definitely worth it, and this is what they're doing here. Dominus Perch as well, I think going second is a phenomenal card because it can also negate Maxi if your opponent has something on the board. But yeah, the cool thing about Yummy, from what I'm hearing at least, is that Yummy is a deck that actually has weaknesses in terms of board breakers. Like, people are playing cards like Dino Wrestler, Pankratops, Dark Ruler No More, Raigeki, and Evenly Matched because all those cards seem pretty decent against Yummy. And I personally feel like, I've said this before, but without looking into it with too much detail, I just think if a deck's weakness is Dino Wrestler, Pankratops, the deck cannot possibly be that toxic, okay? Like, there's no shot the deck is... If the best deck in the game is weak to Dino Wrestler, Pankratops, I feel like we're doing fine. All right? Like, I mean, Pankratops is a good card, but look, hey, if your deck like basically has a weakness to your opponent summoning a 2600 attacker, going battle phase, attacking one of your monsters, and then popping another card, your deck cannot possibly be that toxic. It cannot possibly be that toxic. Speaking of toxic, people are playing a Pointer of the Red Lotus in the OCG now because Yummy is weak to board breakers. We see a Pointer of the Red Lotus in side decks, which is a card that should not be legal. So it's a good thing because we in the TCG, we will not have this card. We will not have a Pointer of the Red Lotus. But yeah, this is the kind of combo deck that I would like to see in the game, to be honest. Even though Yummy is a combo deck and I'm typically not super fond of combo decks, if the combo deck has weaknesses like Pankratops, like Evenly, and so on and so forth, even Raigeki, I think that's good to hear. I think that's cool. So nothing about this makes me scared. All of this makes me like look ahead to Justice Hunters. It's looking good so far. Maybe once the deck comes out, I'll change my mind. I don't know. This sometimes happens where I have a very cool impression of a deck, but then it changes. But for now, I think all of Justice Hunters is just looking good, dude. I'm looking forward to this. Okay. Dracotail. Metagame layers can be observed from the development of Dracotail builds. At layer 0, Dracotail builds are running King of the Swamp and Poly as a supplement. The King of the Swamp package opens up Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, and it can grab Polymerization when needed. At layer 1, opponents are now teching Retaliating Sea against Dracotail. Yeah, we've talked about this. Dragontail, being a very fusion-centric archetype, has weaknesses to Retaliating Sea. And so the next layer, to play around Retaliating Sea, Dracotail builds are now cutting Polymerization. Monsters that provide an effect to perform a fusion summon, such as Blazing Cartesia or Performapal Odd-Eyes Dissolver, are now played instead, as they do not trigger the opponent's Retaliating Sea. Ooh, that's interesting. I like that. Performapal Odd-Eyes Dissolve. What is that card? Hold up. Odd-Eyes Dissolver. Ah, okay, I see. This is a pendulum monster with the pendulum effect of once per turn during your main phase, you can fusion summon a dragon fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from hand or field as material. So it's basically Poly. But only for dragons. But you cannot add it with King of the Swamp. On the other hand, it seems to have some great applications in the grind game because it's a once per turn Poly, right? Like it stays, which is cool. All right. That's a neat card. Okay, the Primite package and Megistus package are also ways to play around the opponent's Retaliating Sea. The Megistus package can bring out an early Borreload Savage Dragon. Not in the TCG. Not in the TCG. No, it won't. No, it won't. Summon Omnis. But Zoroa the Megistus Victorious Verethrania before activating the Dracotail spells. Yeah. This is cool. I like this. I like these sort of metagame developments because, of course, a card like Retaliating Sea can be a very, very powerful counter if your deck is very one-dimensional and cannot really play around it. From what it sounds like, the Dragontail or Dracotail deck, it's going to take a while to get used to the new name. The Dracotail deck seems to have potential avenues to play around that type of card. It's not as one-dimensional as other decks out there. It apparently can change up its game plan a little bit. That's cool. I'm a big fan of the concept of this deck. From what I've seen so far, the Dracotail deck looks very cool. I'm looking for this is the deck. Even though Yummy seems fine too, I am looking forward to Dracotail the most out of Justice Hunters at this point in time, at least. And here's Malice. Of course, this is the deck that is the closest to us in the TCG right now. This deck is basically almost identical to what we're gonna see in the TCG moving forward. Of course, we're going to see some exchange on tech cards, like Dormouse is going to be a 2-of for us. Of course, White Rabbit is going to be a 2-of. Underground is going to be a 2-of. There's not going to be Maxis in there. You're going to see less Crossout and Called By in the main deck because there's no Maxi. We don't have Link Decoder. But for the most part, this is basically what you're looking at as the contender for best deck in the format. Spellcart Monster Reborn. I'm sure they mentioned that, right? Spellcart Monster Reborn can also be a disruption. When the opponent activates Canine Lupus, Spellcart Monster Reborn can be chained to it to special summon it. Ah, okay, I get it. So basically, Spellcard Monster Reborn is an interesting card. Because it has basically seen no play so far. But I do think it is a decent card. It's just like, because it doesn't belong to any archetype, and usually people value other non-engine more than this type of effect. But it is a pretty interesting, I think it's a very strong upgrade over Monster Reborn, the OG card, right? Because it's basically Monster Reborn with a slight downside because the monster cannot attack or activate its effects, but it is a quick play spell card, which is a huge upgrade. So basically what they're saying is you can use it as like a pseudo Called by the Grave against some cards, because the canine, one of the canines is basically a hand trap that summons from the graveyard. So you just like you just steal it basically, and that means you cannot. It means you cannot perform the rank 5. You can also use it as an extender that works under Lancia, is what they're saying here. Like you normal summon, they Lancia, you link it off, you activate the card, it brings it back. I mean, everything that you could also do with regular Monster Reborn. But also here in the Malice mirror match, if the opponent uses Artifact Lancia on your turn, Spellcard Monster Reborn can just bring it back and tribute it on the next turn, which is kind of crazy, you know. And this is one of the constants here in these side decks. I've just been paying some attention to it. Artifact Lancia, every single side deck, of course. I think this one here had it too. Yeah, there's like all of the other cards seem to be an option, right? Everything else here seems optional because some people are doing Nibiru, some people are doing Pankratop, some people are doing Evenly. There's only one Retaliating here. You know, this one has like no Evenly but more Pankratops, yada yada. Lancia is the one that's consistent between all of them, right? Like this one doesn't even have Pankratops or Evenly, but Lancia is always there, right? And so Lancia is probably going to be overall through 2025, maybe all of 2025, Lancia might be the most played side deck card, period, for the entire year. Well, yeah, in the Malice mirror match, Spellcard Monster number 1 is a pretty good answer to it, I suppose. Yeah. Wait, SP is at 1 in the OCG? I know, right? Isn't it crazy? Isn't that just so funny to look at? Because that's also it's been such a long time. And yeah, we're gonna see the impact of the new Vanquish Soul cards soon as well. The funny part about SP Little Knight at 1 is that when it happened, like months ago, maybe even a year or more at this point, I don't remember when that happened, but it's been a while. When that happened, everyone was like, yeah, that makes no sense, but maybe it's a warning shot. Maybe they're going to eventually ban it because it's such a good card. Nothing has happened since. Like, they just put it to 1, and it's just vibing there. It was at 2 for a while as well. You could argue it being at 1 matters in some very fringe cases. You know, I have played 2 SP Little Knights in very, very few decks. It matters very, very rarely. But it's probably one of the weirdest cards to be at 1. It's like if they just put Baron and Appaloosa to 1 almost. Like I don't know. Yeah. And then there's K9, which is still looking somewhat like we're used to it. They're now using Trickstar Lightstage with Korobane as a level 5 extender. I like that. I think that's like Trickstar Lightstage is a very good card, I think, because it's more than just adding a Trickstar. It's also just like locking down imperms when you're going second. I think that's quite decent. So whenever a deck can play this card as an extender, I think it's good. Especially in the case where Korobane is your extender. Like, there's a huge difference between Korobane and Trickstar Lilybell, because that's like the 2 cards that you typically see when you use Lightstage as an extender. Like, for example, I've used Trickstar Lightstage in Sprites before to add Lilybell as a level 2 extender. However, that had the small problem of if you draw Lilybell, it's kind of bad. the thing with Korobane is not a bad draw per se, right? Like you can just special summon it. So I like that a lot. I think that's a cool engine. Nobody's playing the Dominus cards. I mean, K9 apparently just can't use them because you rely on Dark and Earth together, which conflicts with Dominus. Like Dark and Earth together just doesn't work. Malice is playing Dominus Impulse. Dracotail cannot play Dominus cards because it has too many different attributes. And Yami is playing Dominus Purge. So literally, the thing about the Dominus cards that you have to realize is if a deck, for the foreseeable future, if a deck can play the Dominus cards without a problem, it's going to play the Dominus cards. That's just how it is. Like, the cards are good enough to the point where if your deck can play Dominus Purge, you're going to play Dominus Purge. If your deck can play Dominus Impulse, you're going to play Dominus Impulse. Especially Dominus Impulse is one of the best hand traps in the upcoming formats because Dominus is one of the, like, Impulse is one of the best hand traps against Malice. For the TCG, it's even more relevant if your deck can play Dominus Impulse because it also covers Mitsurugi fairly well. Dominus Impulse, I think, is the best non-lingering floodgate hand trap against those two decks is Dominus Impulse. Like, not considering cards like Droll Lockbird or Molcharmies, right? For those two decks. So yeah. But yeah, I do think overall, of course, we're gonna get more updates soon. The OCG is looking fine right now. I mean, you know what I mean. But Yami, Dracotail, and K9 all seem pretty cool to me. I like these. I think these are they're cool. Too many floodgates in OCG? Yeah, but that's just OCG, you know? The OCGs, they be wilding like that sometimes, you know? They be having anti-spell Appaloosa, Appointer of the Red Lotus, and all that, you know? It's just Maxi in every deck. It is what it is, you know? I don't know. I'm past the point where I'm going to keep bringing that up, you know? It's just, that's just, at this point, that's established, right?